Throughout history, African art has been systematically plundered, especially during times of wars and colonization. These invaluable pieces, deeply rooted in the cultural tapestry of African nations, have been forcibly taken away, leaving scars on the identity of these communities. Britain's involvement in the looting of African artifacts is a dark chapter in history. During the late 19th century, the infamous Benin Expedition of 1897 marked a brutal episode where British forces, led by Admiral Sir Harry Rawson, ransacked the Kingdom of Benin. This military action resulted in the looting of thousands of artifacts, including the renowned Benin bronzes. The Benin bronzes, exquisite brass sculptures that adorn the royal palace in Benin City, were not only symbols of artistic brilliance but also integral to Benin's cultural heritage. However, the British invasion led to the pillaging of these masterpieces, which later found their way into European museums and private collections. Adding to the list of cultural atrocities, the 1868 Abyssinian expedition led by General Robert Napier saw the looting of Magdala, Ethiopia. The British forces seized religious manuscripts, crowns, and other artifacts, taking them back to England. This act not only deprived Ethiopia of its cultural treasures but also showcased the ruthlessness of colonial expansion. Britain's looting endeavors were not solitary. They often collaborated with allies, creating a network of cultural plunder. The involvement of individuals and institutions in this theft underlines the collaborative nature of these exploitative actions. 1. Cultural loss. The aftermath of this widespread theft has left African nations grappling with the profound cultural loss. The stolen artifacts were not just objects. They were living remnants of history, connecting present generations with their roots. The absence of these artifacts has led to a tangible void in the understanding and preservation of African cultural heritage. 2. Advocacy for repatriation. As global awareness grows, so does the anger among communities seeking justice for their stolen heritage. Activists, scholars, and some museums are fervently advocating for the repatriation of looted artifacts. The call for justice is gaining momentum, aiming to rectify historical injustices and restore a sense of pride and identity to the affected African nations. Chibok, nestled in the northern part of Nigeria, holds a deep historical significance as a vibrant town with a rich cultural tapestry. The community, known for its resilience and communal bonds, became a witness to a dark chapter in its history. In 1906, British soldiers carried out a so-called punitive expedition in Chibok, marking a disturbing episode in colonial history. Under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Hugh Trenchard, British forces descended upon Chibok with the ostensible aim of enforcing punitive measures. However, this expedition would soon reveal itself as a brutal campaign to suppress any resistance and assert colonial dominance. Undeterred by the overwhelming force, the brave townsmen of Chibok stood firm in resistance. Faced with the oppressive might of the British military, they valiantly defended their home. The ensuing 11-day siege became a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Chibok community, as they resisted the unjust aggression imposed upon them. The townsmen, armed with a determination to protect their way of life, faced hardships during the siege. Despite the odds, their resilience shone through as they withstood the physical and psychological toll of the prolonged conflict. The British forces, employing tactics of intimidation and coercion, eventually annexed Chibok. The aftermath of this annexation left scars on the town, as the people grappled with the loss of autonomy and the imposition of foreign rule. The once thriving community was forced to adapt to the changes imposed upon them, reshaping the fabric of Chibok's social and cultural landscape. The colonial punitive expedition was not merely punitive but a calculated act of oppression, revealing the darker motives underlying imperialistic endeavor. In a grievous chapter of history, various African communities found themselves victims of colonial pillaging. One stark example is the collection of arrows and spears forcibly taken from African regions and shipped off to London during the era of colonization. The pillagers, often backed by imperial powers, seized these culturally significant artifacts, depriving communities of their tangible links to heritage and history. These arrows and spears, once vital tools for hunting and protection, became commodities in the hands of collectors and museums. The act of shipping these artifacts to London served as a blatant display of cultural exploitation, stripping communities of their identity while fueling the insatiable appetite of Western collectors. The anger among looted African nations intensifies as Western museums, custodians of these looted artifacts, defend their collections under the guise of being universal. This defense often dismisses rightful claims for repatriation, perpetuating an unjust narrative that considers these stolen treasures as the collective property of humanity. The critique lies in the refusal to acknowledge the specific cultural contexts from which these artifacts were violently extracted, reinforcing the imbalance of power and historical injustice. The conflict of artifacts is not just about physical objects. It's about the narratives that shape our understanding of the past. The danger emerges when historical accounts rely solely on the victor's perspective. The voices of those whose cultural heritage was pillaged are silenced, contributing to skewed narratives that paint an incomplete picture of history. Viewers become rightfully indignant as they grasp the significance of hearing diverse voices to create a more accurate and inclusive historical narrative. The anger swells further when accusations are levied against Western museums for actively shaping colonialism and conquest stories through their curated exhibits. The deliberate framing of historical events perpetuates narratives that justify imperialistic actions, downplaying the human cost and cultural devastation inflicted on colonized regions. The accusation is that these museums, knowingly or unknowingly, contribute to the perpetuation of harmful stereotypes and a distorted understanding of history. The conflict of artifacts is not a mere clash over material possessions. It's a struggle for justice, acknowledgement, and the restoration of cultural dignity. Viewers rightfully channel their anger towards the exploitation of cultural heritage, the refusal to rectify historical wrongs, and the complicity of institutions in perpetuating damaging narratives. Understanding these nuances is crucial for fostering empathy, advocating for repatriation, and dismantling the structures that sustain this conflict. In recent times, African governments have passionately spearheaded efforts to reclaim their cultural heritage, which was looted during periods of colonization. This push for repatriation reflects a collective commitment to restoring dignity and rightful ownership of artifacts that hold immense cultural significance. Nations across the continent are demanding the return of stolen treasures, acknowledging the importance of these artifacts in preserving their rich history and heritage. A significant milestone in the repatriation movement occurred in 2020 with the establishment of the Legacy Restoration Trust. This organization serves as a crucial intermediary, facilitating negotiations and coordinating efforts between African nations and foreign institutions holding looted artifacts. The trust plays a pivotal role in streamlining the repatriation process, ensuring transparency and accountability in the endeavor to reclaim stolen cultural treasures. African nations, determined in their pursuit of repatriation, have entered into proactive agreements with various institutions worldwide. These agreements mark a shift in the dynamics, as some museums in the US, Germany, Ireland, and Britain have acknowledged the rightful ownership of certain artifacts and agreed to return them to their countries of origin. Such agreements signify a growing recognition of the need to rectify historical injustices and foster positive collaboration in the realm of cultural heritage. The collaborations have seen the return of artifacts ranging from sculptures to manuscripts, each carrying profound cultural significance. Notable instances include agreements with renowned institutions like the Smithsonian in the US, the Humboldt Forum in Germany, the National Museum of Ireland, and ongoing negotiations with the British Museum. Despite mounting evidence of the illicit acquisition of numerous artifacts during the colonial era, negotiations have proven intricate and at times resistant. The British Museum, a repository of a vast array of looted treasures, often contends with legal complexities, institutional policies, and concerns regarding the precedent of repatriation. The challenges underscore the uphill battle that African nations face in reclaiming their cultural heritage. The viewer's anger is directed towards the slow progress, legal hurdles, and the need for greater acknowledgement of historical wrongs. The detailed accounts of these challenges serve as a rallying cry for continued advocacy, urging international institutions to confront their colonial legacies and take meaningful steps towards restitution. In conclusion, the push for repatriation by African governments is a dynamic and evolving movement, marked by milestones, proactive agreements, and persistent challenges. Viewers, fueled by a sense of justice and historical accountability, are encouraged to support these efforts, recognizing the importance of restoring cultural heritage to its rightful home. The current landscape reveals a disheartening reality as Britain maintains its retain and explain stance for state-owned institutions. This policy, rather than embracing restitution, creates a melancholic atmosphere, implying a reluctance to fully acknowledge the pain inflicted by the historical pillaging of cultural artifacts during the colonial era. The retain and explain approach, which requires institutions to justify retaining looted artifacts, casts a shadow on the quest for justice and healing. It leaves those seeking repatriation feeling a profound sense of sadness, as it suggests a continued lack of empathy and recognition of the historical trauma inflicted on communities whose cultural heritage was forcefully taken away. A pervasive sadness permeates discussions around repatriation efforts due to legal restrictions that hinder British institutions from promptly returning looted collections. The complex legal landscape not only adds layers of bureaucracy but also prolongs the agony of communities striving to reclaim their cultural treasures. The weight of these legal barriers is felt deeply, fostering a sense of frustration and powerlessness among those advocating for the return of stolen artifacts. The sadness stems from the realization that the legal complexities are not merely technical hurdles but obstacles that perpetuate the withholding of cultural heritage. The melancholy deepens as the narrative unfolds with the Benin Dialogue Group's decades-long discussions. The prolonged nature of these deliberations creates a somber undertone, underscoring the enduring struggle for the restitution of Benin bronzes. Despite the efforts of Nigerian representatives and European museums, the lack of clear timelines for repatriation adds a poignant layer of disappointment. The uncertainty surrounding when these treasures will finally return to their rightful home exacerbates the sadness, emphasizing the persistent challenges in achieving swift and decisive outcomes. The resilience of the Nigerian authorities, backed by public support, is a glimmer of hope. However, the slow pace of progress and the challenges faced evoke a profound sadness. The ongoing negotiations serve as a stark reminder of the arduous journey towards justice, leaving a poignant impression of a nation persistently striving to reclaim its cultural heritage in the face of formidable obstacles. The current stance and challenges surrounding repatriation efforts paint a poignant picture of a journey marked by sorrow and resilience. The nuanced exploration of these complexities serves as a call for collective empathy and international cooperation, urging a shift towards a future where restitution is guided by understanding, compassion, and a shared commitment to healing historical wounds. The ongoing conflict over repatriation leaves a lingering sense of sadness, as the struggle to reclaim cultural heritage persists. This saga involves nations passionately seeking the return of looted artifacts, echoing the pain of historical injustices. From the iconic Benin bronzes to various cultural objects, the quest for restitution remains a poignant reminder of the far-reaching impact of colonial pillaging on communities. The sadness deepens as the narratives of affected nations unfold, revealing the intricate layers of the ongoing conflict. The scars of history are palpable, and the fervent desire to right these wrongs underlines the urgency for justice in the realm of cultural heritage. The mood of the narrative turns somber when examining the British Museum's response to repatriation requests. The lack of a clear stance and the ambiguity surrounding loaned returns contribute to the prevailing sadness. Despite increasing calls for the restitution of looted artifacts, The British Museum's reluctance to provide a definitive roadmap for repatriation leaves affected communities in a state of uncertainty. The absence of a transparent commitment to permanent returns casts a shadow on the possibilities of reconciliation. The lack of clarity becomes a poignant symbol of the challenges faced in rectifying historical wrongs. Amidst the sadness and uncertainty, Nigeria's steadfast commitment to continue negotiations for the return of its cultural objects provides a glimmer of hope. The resilience of Nigerian authorities in the face of ongoing challenges showcases a determination to reclaim stolen heritage. Despite the complexities and slow progress, Nigeria remains resolute in its pursuit of justice, emphasizing the importance of restoring cultural dignity and healing historical wounds. As negotiations persist, Nigeria's commitment becomes a beacon of hope in the quest for repatriation. The ongoing efforts serve as a testament to the nation's unwavering resolve to reclaim its cultural legacy, offering a counterpoint to the prevailing sadness and uncertainty surrounding the broader conflict over repatriation. In conclusion, the current state of repatriation efforts evokes a mix of sadness, hope, and perseverance. The intricacies of ongoing negotiations, the ambiguity in responses, and the commitment of affected nations together shape a complex narrative that calls for a collective reflection on the importance of addressing historical injustices and fostering a future of cultural inclusivity.